You're listening to the official Minnesota Wild podcast, presented by Acrisure.
Welcome back to Washington, where after one period of play, the Washington Capitals lead the Minnesota Wild by a score of 1-0. I'm Tom Reid, pleased to be joined with a guy who covered the team quite a bit last year, not the entire year, but quite a bit. But this year also, Jess Myers of the St. Paul Pioneer Press. And welcome to NHL hockey.
Well, I've been watching NHL hockey a long time, but haven't been following the team on the road until, as you mentioned, November 1st of last year I started with the Pioneer Press. So getting to see a lot of NHL rinks. I'd seen a fair amount of them covering college hockey, a lot of Frozen Fours and places like here in Washington and Philadelphia and Tampa or wherever else. But it's an adventure following these guys all over the country.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to watch these kids coming out of high school, the colleges, and all of a sudden they get to the NHL and to be able to watch their careers as they build. And I know you've seen a lot of the guys coming out of War Road and the WCHA, all the different leagues there are in junior hockey now and college hockey and out of the National Hockey League.
You mentioned Warroad, my hometown. There's a weird connection.
I knew you were going to mention it at some point, so I thought I'd get it out of the way.
Weird connection with the Capitals, though. 3 members of the Capitals from Warroad over the years. TJ Oshie most recently retired just this past summer.
Now he's a television guy.
Yep, now he's a TV guy. Yep. Dave Christian, of course, from the Miracle on Ice. Yep. He played here for several years. And Alan Hanksley, been going way back to like the early 80s. Just a moose of a guy. Played at North Dakota and just strong as an ox. He still lives out here in the D.C. area. So weird connections with the Capitals in my hometown.
Yeah, you look at the Christian brothers, too. I mean, they have certainly made a name for themselves in that area. It just goes on and on. Well, let's talk a little bit about NHL hockey today. Your impressions of period number 1.
I thought they played great defensively for about 16 minutes.
And then?
That last 4 minutes, I don't know what was going on. Guys were running around. People were open all over the place. And Alex Ovechkin proved if you pay a little too much attention to him, he's going to set somebody up for just a tap-in, and that's what he did with Dylan Strome. Good first period, I thought, defensively, but 3 shots ain't enough, especially when you have a power play and you only got 1 shot on it.
Yeah, you mentioned Ovechkin and how good he has been for the league and certainly for this hockey club, and now that he has the title, I mean, he chased Wayne Gretzky all those years, and now he is the leader. People are chasing him, and he doesn't appear to be letting up. But I think this could be one more year after this one, I think. And we'll see where it goes with him. But, boy, is he fun to watch.
897 goals right now. I did some math today at my hotel room. Kirill Kaprizov has 189 goals in his career right now. He's got 1 goal every game this year. He's averaging a goal a game. If Kirill Kaprizov could average a goal a game for the next 8 years, he could get to the 900 goal mark. Think about that. Well, I mean, just when you put the numbers together with what Ovechkin has done in his career, it's just mind-boggling.
It really is. And he does it in so many different ways too. When you talk to the coaches, what's a shot like? He changes his shot all the time. He can just by moving his hands, moving his position, and so on. The shots come in real hard sometimes, a little bit soft sometimes, but he knows exactly what he has to do. You never know what you're going to get when he takes that shot.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool. I think back to World Juniors in 2005 in Grand Forks when we saw him playing for Team Russia, when we saw Sidney Crosby playing for Team Canada. Some great players in that tournament. Those guys went 1-2 in the draft. Kind of cool when you look back 20 years later. They're both with their original teams. Crosby spent his entire career in Pittsburgh. He's won some cups there. Ovechkin, obviously, here in 2018, won his only Stanley Cup so far. But really cool to, I guess it means I'm old, but to watch those guys develop the way they have in their careers.
I can remember sitting in the dressing room with Sid one time. This was the day of a game after the morning skate, and he was in there with his uniform, and I walked in, and I was by myself. He said, "Come on over." So he came over. He had been to my pub a few times when he was going to Saddle St. Mary's, so he knew me and what it was all about. But he was a very interesting guy to talk to, and I mean, his love for the game certainly is evident. And I think the same thing with Ovi. I mean, he just loves to play, and he loves to score goals. They both do. They love the points, but they love also the fact that they're successful in what they do.
The Capitals were in Minnesota last year in March. I think he was like 3 or 4 short of breaking Gretzky's record. All kinds of media following him around. And somebody said, "Alex, when did it get old, all of this attention?" He said, "Well, about 3 years ago." So he just wants to play hockey. He doesn't seek the limelight out or anything like that. But it was really cool today, Tom, talking to Kirill Kaprizov after morning skate, and he said, this is a guy who was my idol. He wore the yellow skate laces, the whole deal. And he said now they're legitimately friends. They get together in Moscow in the summer. They skate together sometimes now. Really neat to see how that has developed from being this idol of a guy I want to be like to now Kaprizov and Ovechkin are kind of contemporaries here.
Yeah, and the skill of the players, both those players too, is tremendous. There's no doubt that when you watch them out there, you really get focused on what they do when they have the puck because something's going to happen.
Yes, absolutely. They're those kind of players, and not to get into politics, but Kaprizov mentioned the fact that they had played together a little bit on Team Russia. We haven't seen Russia in international competition for a few years because of kind of the world political situation. But you wonder if at some point, if we have peace, if that will come back, and you'll get to see those two guys play together once again.
When you cover the team, and you get down to the dressing room right after the games, is it easy to walk into a dressing room when the team wins? Obviously, it's easy, but when they lose, do you find them a little bit grumpy at times? You know
what's interesting is you find guys that want to talk and want to stand up for the team and want to make their voices heard. We had games last year where they would have a disappointing game, wouldn't play well, and Matt Zuccarello would be sitting in his locker room saying, "Come talk to me. I've got stuff to say." That's kind of neat when you see those veteran players who are ready to say, "I'm going to stand up. I'm going to speak for the team. I'm going to tell you what I have to say." Obviously, if a guy has a bad turnover or if they cause something to happen in the game that's a negative, they generally don't want to talk. But I guess you respect the guys who say, "Yeah, I made a bad play there. I got to be better." I really respect that kind of player who's willing to stand up even after a loss and say, "This is what we've got to do. This is what happened."
And I think that comes with the leadership of the team also, starting with the captain and the assistant captain says that you own it. You make a mistake, you own it. Hey, guys, my fault. You know what? That's not going to happen again. And you learn from it. And I think the young kids learn how to conduct themselves also when bad things happen on the ice or when good things happen.
Yep. I mean, Gus Nyquist last year, we talked to him a couple days after that, tiny little offside in Vegas that wound up being so costly, and he just said, "Hey, my bad. I didn't see it. I couldn't see the guy coming across the line. I thought I was onside." But again, you have a kind of begrudging respect for guys who are willing to say, "It's okay, I made a mistake." Mistakes are part of this game. That's how guys score.
Minnesota had a good year last year, no question about. Gus was terrific last year. That he really upped the ante. There's no question how he came into the fold. But this year, a little bit guarded right now too, and you don't want to get into that hole that you can get into because it's hard to get out.
Absolutely. And everybody says it's early. We're 4 games into the season, four games in one period. But, man, things can go sideways quickly, and you've seen guys play their way right out of the playoffs in October before, and you certainly don't want to see that. I think they're off to a decent start. Obviously, the power play has been the story so far. Got to get the 5-on-5 scoring going. And, again, 3 shots in the first period. You got to do more than that.
I look at Minnesota's defense also, and the fact that the Minnesota defensemen had a lot of injuries last year, starting with Spurgeon. I look at the defense for the Capitals. They had a total, I think, of 35 games lost to injuries last year. Wow. The whole defense. We got 10 seconds to go.
I love writing. I hate writing about injuries, and that's all I wrote about last year. So let's stay healthy, guys.
Sounds good. All right, Kevin, let's go back to you.
All right, thank you, Tom, and thank you, Jess, for joining us in the intermission. You'll get a gift certificate down to Tom Reid's Hockey City Pub, where they're listening intently. As the Wild trail the Capitals 1-0. After one period of play, we'll take a break and we'll tell you how we got in this hole. That's next. You're listening to Wild Hockey, presented by Grand Casino.
For an extraordinary advantage in sports, you need a game plan. For an extraordinary advantage everywhere else, all you need is Acrisure. With a high-tech human approach to insurance, cybersecurity, and more, Acrisure helps you take care of what you care about. That makes winning easy. See what Acrisure's extraordinary advantage can do for you at Acrisure.com.